We are very, very close to the NFL season starting, as at the end of the month here in July, the Hall of Fame game takes place. And this will finally give us a time for us to watch the Ravens' new rookies and see what we're getting from them or could potentially be getting from them. And it made me think, what are some of the greatest rookie seasons in Ravens history? Now, basically the criteria for this list is that they had to have either been drafted or signed as an undrafted rookie free agent, and they had to play their rookie season on the Ravens while at least starting half the season, so 8 games or more, because I feel like starting less than half the season, there's a lot less to go off of, and numbers could easily be inflated. Now, I wasn't necessarily going through every year, but I found 24 seasons in particular, and of course, we're going to start out with the Ravens' inaugural year in 1996 with the Lewises. Ray Lewis, obviously being the Ravens' second draft pick of all time at 26th overall. He would finish his rookie season with 110 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 1 interception, and he doesn't really need any other introduction because people know how it turned out: a Hall of Fame career, one of the most feared defenders of all time, and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And then there's Jermaine Lewis, a kind of small receiver the Ravens drafted out of the University of Maryland, who, when you look at his receiving stats, you're not going to see anything fly off the page, but his return stats, as he returned 36 punts this season for 339 yards and 41 kickoffs for 883 yards. Now, granted, he didn't have a touchdown, those would come later, but nonetheless, to have over 1,000 total yards on just returns in general, that's pretty impressive. The very next year, in 1997, though, the Ravens would have their first Defensive Rookie of the Year winner, that being their first-round pick, Peter Boulware. For a while, the Ravens were really, really good at finding talent in the first round, and Boulware had 58 tackles and 11.5 sacks as a rookie. This was a Ravens rookie record until, well, we'll get to that guy later, but obviously Peter Boulware became an underrated force in that Ravens defense for years to come, and turns out to be one of the best picks in team history. Fast forward a couple years, in 1999, the Ravens brought in Chris McAlister in the first round from Arizona, and again, 49 tackles, 5 interceptions. He was very, very underrated for his time. Like, I feel like he got recognition, but not enough recognition as one of the best corners in the game, as when you look at the very next year in 2000, him and Dwayne Starks combined to give up just 11 touchdowns, and if you count the playoffs, 33 interceptions on the greatest defense of all time. So he needs his flowers as well. Speaking of that 2000 season, there was just something about the Ravens and drafting guys with the last name Lewis, but the Ravens traded up in the first round to get Tennessee running back Jamal Lewis. And although he didn't start the season as the number 1 back, he was playing behind Priest Holmes, there was a time when he did get his shot, and when he got his shot, he never gave it back. 309 carries, 1,364 yards, which again is a Ravens rookie record still. Only 6 touchdowns on the ground, but you gotta look, I mean, the Ravens offense wasn't necessarily great for scoring touchdowns that year, and even in the playoffs, he had 338 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, so he was very effective in the playoffs as well, leading to that Super Bowl victory, including having over 100 yards in the Super Bowl. He would get injured the next year, but would have some of his better years from, I would say, 2000 to 2004, before things kind of just became meh for him, but nonetheless, solid career. A couple years later, again in 2002, obviously, Ravens draft University of Miami safety Ed Reed, and like the Ray Lewis pick, this one, like, there's no introduction needed here. 85 tackles, 12 pass deflections, 5 interceptions, and even a blocked punt that he also picked up in return for a TD. I mean, early Ed Reed could do it all. He could do it all late in his career, but I feel like early in his career, man, he was unstoppable. I mean, from 2003 to 2010, he was just a menace. And even though he still finished off his career okay with the Ravens, I guess you can say, he came right into the NFL and fit in nicely. And the very next year, people forget in 2003, the Ravens had 2 first-round picks, or at least they traded to get one, but a lot of people remember Kyle Bowler being picked later in the draft. However, that was the one that the Ravens got in a trade-up. The pick they actually had in the first round, they decided to take Arizona State pass rusher Terrell Suggs. And although 29 tackles may not necessarily be like anything, he was a rotational player, but he set what is still a Ravens rookie record with 12 sacks in a season and 1 Defensive Rookie of the Year, just one of 2 Ravens to do so. And and it took him breaking Peter Boulware's Ravens rookie record by half a sack to do it. Obviously, again, we know how his career turned out. He should be in the Hall of Fame sooner or later. Then, after a couple of kind of either meh drafts or just bad drafts in 2006, the Ravens had a trio of guys come in their rookie year and do very well. First round pick Haloti Ngata out of Oregon, 31 tackles, 2 pass deflections, which for a defensive tackle, pretty impressive, and 1 60-yard interception. And even safety late in the 5th round by the name of Dwan Landry came out, had 69 tackles, 3 sacks, and 5 interceptions. You pair him next to Ed Reed, and boy, it was just about impossible to throw on this team. And there was actually a punter who came in and did pretty well by the name of Sam Cook. I mean, 86 punts for almost 3,700 yards and 43 yards a punt. That's pretty good for someone coming out of college, not really knowing what you're going to get out of him, taking that risk considering your punter, Dave Zastudil, left in free agency. So you got to give it to the Ravens there. They nailed that pick. Then, obviously, in 2008, I have to mention Joe Flacco because he got the Ravens out of quarterback purgatory, as when he was drafted, the Ravens had never really had a franchise QB. I think the only Ravens quarterback who was there for more than 4 years at this point in a season was Kyle Bowler, and we all know how that was turning out, and obviously Bowler was still on the roster, and we didn't know he was going to get hurt in the preseason, but Joe Flacco was supposed to be, let's sit him a year, let him learn, but he kind of got thrusted into the role after Bowler's injury and Troy Smith's illness, and during his rookie year, he threw for just under 3,000 yards with 14 touchdowns, 12 picks, and a 60% completion percentage. And again, it's probably just mass stats, but he went 11-5 as a starter. The team went to the AFC Championship game, and sure, it was more the run game and the defense that did their thing. He kept getting better and better each week. Most people forget he started that year with 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions, but then everything started coming together for him, and he would eventually be a Super Bowl MVP, having one of the best postseasons ever in 2012. 2011, they actually were able to draft a weapon for Joe Flacco, as needing someone on the other side of Anquan Boldin. The Ravens decided in the 2nd round to go after University of Maryland wide receiver Torrey Smith. So the second time the Ravens have drafted a Maryland receiver where it's worked, but it wasn't because Torrey Smith was really just good in the return game. He came out in his first start against the Rams in week 3, 3 catches, over 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He would finish with 5 catches, as after that things would kind of slow down, because that was all in the first quarter, by the way. He would finish that year with 50 catches, 841 yards, and the 7 TD receptions actually led the team. He would have another nice year in 2012, hit 1,000 yards in 2013, becoming the first Ravens receiver to be drafted by the team to hit that mark, and he would even have 11 TD receptions in 2014, his very last year as a Raven. So needless to say, for a while, he was the best receiver the Ravens had ever drafted, and it's not really even close. I mean, I know Zay Flowers, who yes, we will get to, is kind of getting to that point, but when we got Torrey Smith, all the other receivers that we had drafted had either turned out to just be okay or just didn't pan out at all. So Torrey Smith was a big steal for us. In 2012, there is 2 guys that I want to mention. Courtney Upshaw, who was technically our first pick. We didn't have a first round pick this year, so it was 2nd round. 60 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. He was just, a nice piece to have in there. And then we're talking about an undrafted guy, the first and only one in this video, that being Justin Tucker. I mean, at this point, the Ravens were kind of having trouble finding that guy for Matt Stover, as the year before kind of struggled. So they decided, let's bring in this guy from the University of Texas, see how he does. And well, he won the job, and let's just say he never took it back. 30 of 33 in field goals his rookie season, which is really good, along with 56, which at the time was a Ravens team record before he broke it multiple times, and went 42 for 42 in extra points. And obviously, we all know how his career turned out. Most accurate kicker in history, holds the record for longest field goal in the league at 66 yards, and all this other stuff going on now that's kind of tainted that. But hey, he was a great pickup, and undrafted nonetheless. Then we go to 2014. The Ravens, a couple years after Ray Lewis had retired, they are looking for somebody to fill that middle linebacker role. So they thought Alabama's C.J. Mosley would be a perfect fit. And well, let's just say he was. He came out as a rookie and had 133 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 8 pass deflections. Was he doing things like Ray Lewis? No, not necessarily. But could you see Ray Lewis putting up those stats? I mean, yeah, he did put up those stats most of the time in the season. And he was very good for the Ravens. He went to the Jets, had a couple injury-plagued years, but when he played with the Jets, he was still pretty solid. So he recently retired, but nonetheless, very, very good career for him. Then again, you'd have to fast forward a couple years where I say we really had our next great rookie season. That's Marlon Humphrey in 2017, who's entering his 9th year, by the way, all with the Ravens, still playing pretty elite ball. In his rookie year, he had 34 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 11 pass deflections. He's not a guy known for interceptions. I mean, last year he did have a career-high 6 picks and had his first pick 6 as well last year. He's more of a guy that's just so good in coverage that teams don't want to throw his way because they know more often than not they're not going to get that touchdown. They're not going to get that completion because Marlon Humphrey is just that good, and he could end up being a future Hall of Famer. I don't know. I mean, maybe his interception total is too low, but with the way he plays the game, I think that he should be in. I don't know about first ballot, but I think he can get in eventually. And then the very next year, the Ravens got their new dynamic duo, and I don't even think they really knew it at the time. As after drafting Hayden Hurst in the first round, the Ravens then traded back up with the 32nd and final pick of that round to draft University of Louisville's Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Now, I have to preference this. His passing stats weren't necessarily great. He went 99 of 170 for 1,201 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks, but you gotta remember, he started 7 games, but the reason I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here is because he did play in other games before that as mainly like a wildcat gadget kind of player. And you add into the fact that he had 695 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, he still had a pretty good rookie season for only starting pretty much half the season, including the playoff game, but he really made us realize, like, okay, Joe Flacco might be gone and out of his prime, but we got this new guy in place of him that could potentially be better if things go right. And let's just say things are going completely fine in that sense. But then in the 3rd round, the Ravens decided to get another tight end, Oklahoma's Mark Andrews. And again, his stats may not be sexy, but this is when we realized that this guy could be really good. 34 catches, 552 yards, 3 touchdowns. And you gotta remember, after Lamar Jackson became starter, the Ravens didn't really throw the ball a lot, but he was always the big play guy for Lamar during that time and for years past. And although maybe he's kind of tight end 1A with the Ravens, whereas Isaiah Likely's tight end 1B, he's still very productive. He had 11 TD receptions last year, still gets over 50 catches, and what could be his last year as a Raven this season. He's had a very, very productive season. I would say better than Todd Heap at this point. Mark Andrews has definitely passed Todd Heap for the best tight end in Ravens history, but his rookie season, he showed some promise, took that spot from Hayden Hurst, and again, has turned himself into a really, really solid player. Then in 2020, the Ravens hit with their first 2 draft picks. In the first round, they took LSU linebacker Patrick Queen, the first ever LSU player we drafted, had 106 tackles, 3 sacks, and an interception, was very good in the middle of the field, and, you know, he's been pretty solid. I mean, with the Steelers last year, he was okay, but his good years so far have come with the Ravens. And then there was Ohio State running back J.K. Dobbins in the 2nd round. Rookie year, 134 carries, 805 yards, 9 touchdowns, over 6 yards a carry. It's a shame that injuries really plagued his career because obviously before the season started 2021, he got hurt. He played toward the end of 2022 and did well, but he missed most of the first half of the season with an injury. And even in 2023, he only played in 1 game before getting hurt. And he did kind of have a bounce back year with the Chargers, close to 1,000 yards, but he got injured again and is now with the Broncos. So kind of a journeyman running back who definitely still has that potential, but at the same point in time, running backs' careers, especially when they have to deal with multiple injuries, shortens very, very quickly. So we'll see. He had potential, and he wasn't terrible when he played. He just couldn't really stay healthy all that much outside of this 1 season. Then in 2022, the Ravens hit with their 1st round defensive pick again. Where have we heard this before? Kyle Hamilton, their starting safety, who is still there. And although, again, 62 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, don't necessarily jump off the page to come in and do that as a rookie, and he's now one of the best safeties in the game. I mean, hey, Ravens hit the jackpot here. I don't know how Kyle Hamilton fell to us still, but I'll take it. I'm not going to sit here and complain. And then we drafted Sam Cook's replacement, Jordan Stout, who only had to punt 57 times. Obviously, since Lamar's become the quarterback, the Ravens haven't really had to punt more than 65 times in a season. But on those 57 punts, he had 46 yards a punt, so that's pretty good in itself, too. And it does help that we brought in Sam Cook to coach Jordan Stout as well. And then in 2023, I mentioned Zay Flowers earlier. Well, here here he is. 77 catches, 858 receiving yards. Those are both Ravens rookie records. He had 5 touchdowns, and in just year number 2 became a 1,000-yard receiver and a Pro Bowler. He is the only receiver the Ravens have drafted that became a Pro Bowler, and one of 2 that the Ravens have drafted along with Torrey Smith that has had 1,000 yards in a season. So needless to say, the Ravens have basically found Lamar Jackson's Tyreek Hill, and I don't even think it's really debatable. Like, Zay Flowers is everything that Marquise Brown was supposed to be for the Ravens. Not saying Marquise Brown was bad, but he wasn't necessarily living up to his expectations. But Zay, he's doing that and a ton more. But the last one I want to talk about from last season gives us hope that once Marlon Humphrey is gone, whether we cut him or he retires, that corner number 1 will be filled pretty soon after that, as Nate Wiggins, our first round pick from Clemson, came in. 33 tackles, but his 1 pick was a pick 6, 0 touchdowns allowed, which for a rookie, that's wow. You figure him being a rookie, they're going to attack him knowing that the veteran corner's on the other side, so 0 TDs is excellent, and 13 pass deflections. So he could basically be like a Marlon Humphrey, where he might not get a ton of interception, but he's going to spot the ball away, and it's going to get to a point where you're going to be like, all right, I don't know if we want to throw his way because we're just not going to complete the pass. And now that the Ravens have Awuzie and Alexander also at the corner position, it's going to be very hard to pick and choose where you want to throw in the Ravens, because then obviously Kyle Hamilton and now Malachi Starks, who could have the potential to be one of the best Ravens rookies of all time, are also there in the secondary. It's just he joined the Ravens at the exact right time and is basically looking like what Marlon Humphrey did early in his career. So yeah, there you go. Those were 24 of the best rookie seasons by Ravens players that I could truly find. There was some others that were in the running, but I felt like weren't necessarily good enough. Like, Bernard Pierce in 2012, he did fine, but I really wouldn't call it anything spectacular. And there was other ones here like Dwayne Starks in 1998, Jamie Sharper in 1997, that were also pretty solid in itself. But, these were ones that I think were stand out when we talk about Ravens rookies coming in and just doing their thing. And a lot of these guys, they weren't like one season wonders. They came in, had multiple great years, became Ravens greats, became NFL greats. And 2 of the guys that I mentioned are in the Hall of Fame, and it should soon be 3 with Terrell Suggs, but I just feel like the Ravens draft history has been more hit than miss. They've had their bad drafts, they've had their bad draft picks like any other team, but the reason they're so good as an organization and a small market team that doesn't usually have a ton of cap space is because when it comes to drafting, they get the good players and the good value out of them, and it just continues leading to consistent success. So yeah, that's it for me. Stay safe out there, and until then, I can't wait for football season.